Bloody Torchwood.
Welcome to the new Tin Dog podcast. In this episode we'll be talking about the new series of Torchwood. And now, if you cast your mind back to episode 2 of the Tin Dog podcast, you'll be able to experience Tobias's view on Torchwood. Now obviously I share quite a similar view. The first series of Torchwood was not my favourite bit of TV, but I did sit through it, I did enjoy it, it wasn't that bad. Looking back on it, it was better than it felt at the time. Now, after last week's episode of the Tin Dog podcast, I received more emails than I've ever received before because I suggested that I wouldn't be reviewing the new series of Doctor Who or any of the other spin-offs that come with it. This was in response to something someone had written on one of the iTunes feedbacks, basically saying that if I had an issue with new Doctor Who, perhaps I should stick with reviewing old Doctor Who. But my issue with the new series seemed to be echoed by a lot of you, my listeners, and you all wanted to hear what I had to say about new things. I mean, let's face it, when I love something, I do say so. So, I'm going to bow to pressure from you lot, and indeed review all new Doctor Who, which for me includes new Torchwood. So, for those of you who are not familiar with Torchwood, here's a word from the exposition fish.
This is Team Torchwood, the teacher's pets. But teacher's gone, hasn't he? Leaving the kiddie kids all alone. And look at you, trying so hard to be all grown up. The doctor, with his hands full of blood. The carer, with her oh-so-beating heart. The technician, with her cold devices. Which leaves me with the office boy, promoted beyond his measure. All of you, lost without your master. All of you, pretending to be so brave. All of you, so scared.
I hope that's cleared up a lot of things for you. The exposition fish was a character at the beginning of this new series in order to fulfill two plot devices. One, give an image that they could show in the trailer that would go, oh, it's aliens, oh, it's Torchwood, oh, it's back. And also two, in order to fill people in who hadn't seen series 1 on exactly what was happening. The main thing about series 2 that will affect people is that there's going to be a pre-Watershed version shown the following week on sort of primetime TV on BBC 2 again, I think around 6 o'clock, followed by Torchwood Confidential, which is good because everyone was sort of sitting around going, where's Torchwood Confidential gone? But of course the answer is, it's on next week, which is fine by me. A lot of people have drawn parallels between Torchwood and Buffy. Now, in Buffy, the main driving plot device was the Hellmouth, a mystical, or indeed scientific, thing that lived underground that nobody was quite sure what it was, that happened to bring the plot to the people. Yes, that's the rift in Torchwood, isn't it? But of course there are many more similarities. At the end of series of Buffy, we had the main character, who was a mysterious immortal, disappear off and then return, which is a bit of a parallel with what happened at the end of this series of Torchwood. But more importantly, we had someone from this person's mysterious past turn up in order to cause trouble. This person was played by James Masters and was called Spike. So now in Torchwood, somebody from Jack's mysterious past has turned up in order to cause trouble and introduce more character background. Played by the same actor. Now that's taking plagiarism to a whole new level. Did I say plagiarism? I apologise enormously. Influence to a whole new level. Before I begin the review of the actual episode, I do need to say that Jack's first line when he returns is,
"Hey kids, did you miss me?"
And of course the answer is, we couldn't have missed you. You were everywhere. You were in Panto in Birmingham. You were on every single TV programme on Earth. In order to miss someone, they really have to go somewhere. To be fair, the only people who might have missed Jack were Team Torchwood, because they were in the Himalayas, apparently, bonding up a hill somewhere, which is why they're all very, very cosy at the beginning of Series 2. The first episode of a new series is always difficult. It always has to try and hit the ground running, and I think that this episode actually manages it. My view of it is that it was a good story. It was a good episode. Alright, it doesn't involve too much staring, but it was by nowhere near, it wasn't cyber babe awful. It was a decent story, executed quite well. Masters was doing, I'm not quite sure which accent he was going for. He was going for a midpoint between his own voice and Spike's, which is fair enough. I'm not quite sure what direction he was told to go in. It had the obligatory number of sci-fi references, i.e.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope.
And a host of others. On paper, the plot seems fairly thin. Man turns up, needs help searching for things, gets help, betrays people, then is betrayed, then gets the help because he didn't need it, because they're nice people and they're the heroes. At the very end, Captain John, this is Spike, then says, oh, by the way, here's a bit of information that will be a story arc for later, by saying, by the way, I found Grey, and there was a cutaway to some people holding hands on a white background, which could be practically anything. The business with the diamond and the antitoxins and all that business are nice padding, but at its core it was a fairly pedestrian plot, which served its purpose at introducing the new series. This series could be stronger, it will be stronger than Series 1, it will be better, it's better made, it's better executed. They've learnt their lessons so far, and I'm hoping that the rest of this series will be just as good. I'm going to finish off with a track from Hoovemix, performed by Oddsprite. Again, if you'd like to contact this person and thank them for the record or give some thoughts, please email me at the address coming up, and I will pass it on to them. Thanks again for listening and making this podcast one of the most popular Doctor Who casts in the world. Be seeing you. You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Contact us at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk.